How you doing? I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick tour and demo for anybody that might be renting our 2018 Jayco Redhawk 31XL. All right, the first thing you'll notice is you only need 3 keys for this unit. You have the key for the ignition, you have the key to open up the side door. This is the only one that opens up the side door. And then you have this silver key here that opens up all of the hatches underneath here, all these different hatches that are on the bottom of the rig. And we'll talk about how that works in a minute. So let's start first with the actual chassis. This key does not do a dual unlock, unfortunately. So make sure that you use the unlock lock button inside. It will only open up the driver's side, and then you need to lock it, of course. So make sure you don't lock yourself out. Once you hop into the unit, you'll see it's pretty basic. It's just like a big 450 truck. Put the key in the ignition, give it a start. Now you might want to make sure that you use the emergency brake over here on the bottom left every time you stop. That just helps keep the brake safe. And then there's a release lever right here. Just push that to start that back up. As far as the truck itself goes, pretty straightforward. You got park, you've got drive. If you need to, there's a button here. If you're towing, I suggest you use that. It's a tow haul button. It basically drops down a gear so that you can tow a little bit more efficiently up hills and coming down hills, etc. It'll help you with the braking. It'll use some engine braking. In addition to that, if you are driving this unit, please try to preserve the brakes. So whenever you're going downhill, instead of touching the brakes all the time, you should be able to actually hold on to this coast button here with the cruise control on. If you have the hold down to the coast button, it'll actually slow down and it'll shift. It'll downshift a gear so that it'll basically, the engine will slow you down. So that'll actually help keep the brakes healthy and happy. I would appreciate it if you do that. Helps save our brakes a bit. Of course, when you get in the car, first thing you're gonna wanna do is adjust your mirrors left, right. That's pretty self-explanatory. And the other thing that you'll notice here is the radio. You can hook up Bluetooth and all that. Obviously simple things like volume and all those kinds of things. USB ports. There is a port for an HDMI right here if you want to hook up DVD player, etc. You could. It only plays out of this screen and it only plays while you're parked, so it may not be that beneficial to you. We also have auxiliary power if you need it. Outside of that, this is a pretty basic unit. The only other thing that I would mention is if for whatever reason you get stranded and the battery dies on the chassis, on the truck itself, there is a button right here. There's a button right here that you can push called auxiliary start, and what this will do is it'll give power from the coach batteries, from the motorhome batteries, to the actual truck itself, so you can give it a start. Okay, one thing I do want to caution you on is when you're driving, make sure you use your mirrors constantly. Make sure you're checking your left and your right. Remember, if you drive out of this and you swing out, your butt, the rear of the vehicle, is going to make a wide swing. So like I'm close to a fence right here. If I took a hard left, it could actually hit that fence. So make sure you're real careful in checking your mirrors, giving yourself a slow, easy turn out of gas stations or a big one, for example. You don't want to swing wide and have your butt hit and take out one of the gas pumps. So make sure you're aware of that. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and go around and show you some of the different things and features of the coach itself. This first bin is your generator. Nothing real special about this. You shouldn't even have to go in here in theory. There are some potential remote start areas if you really need it, but you should not have to mess with that. There is a start right there, you can see it, but you should just be starting this thing from inside and shouldn't have to worry about this at all. If for whatever reason you feel it's not running right, you can always come out here and check. There is an oil that you can check right here as well. There might be cases where I'll ask you to help make sure and check that and keep it good current oil in there. Okay, and you can see on these, pretty simple, push in, twist, pull out, and make sure you close both sides, okay? And make sure that they're nice and snug. This next area here is where I actually store the equipment that you need for your sewer. So I keep it in this bin here. I know a lot of folks put it in the back and whatnot, but it can fall out. There's also within this storage, there's some chalk, so when you're set up for camp, make sure there's a couple of these in here. Just put those under the tire so that you're nice and safe, and that'll help keep you good to go. This box right here is for your sewer, so let me go ahead and show you how that hooks up. What you'll do is when you get parked at an RV campsite or you need to dump, you'll open this box up and you can see here all these different things that we have. And what you'll do is you'll twist this guy off right here, unhook, and you'll connect one end of this right here. Now, if you need extra length, this is just 10 feet. If you need more than 10 feet, there is extra in this bin right here, and those connect up. You see these just kind of go on and they twist on, they should be on. Make sure they're on good and tight, make sure they're on well, otherwise you could be spraying yourself with your own excrement, which you don't want, I'm sure. You'll take this in here and it'll go face down into the hole, which is into the sewer system hole. All the RV parks that have full services have that hole. You'll put that in there, and then what you'll do is when you check your tanks inside, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit, when you're done camping at the RV park or your tanks happen to be full, you'll come out here and you'll pull this lever right here first, which is for your black tanks. Black tanks are the toilets, etc., the nasty stuff. So you'll pull that first, you'll make sure this drains, and then you'll close this back up and you'll pull this guy open. Now this is your gray water, all your sinks and your shower runoff. It's usually a lot cleaner. So we pull this second to help wash the hose out. And when you pull this out, it might be helpful if you kind of raise this pipe up a little bit so that water gets trapped up in here, and then release it so that a bunch of water kind of flushes out and helps clean out all of the different sidewalls and whatnot of the hose. And try to keep the hose as clean as possible. It's gonna be dirty no matter what, but try to keep it clean. I've got some gloves and things in here if you want to wear those to kind of keep yourself clean and whatnot, but I keep all this in a bin right here, ready to go. Of course, when you're done, reconnect this guy, make sure it's on nice and tight. It goes on, and then you spin it and it locks into place just like that. Next up is your power supply. Pull this out. There's about 25 feet of cable here. And what you're gonna do when you go to the RV site is disconnect these, plug this in first to the RV park. You might have to flip a breaker for 30 amp. This is a 30 amp outlet. And what you wanna look for are two yellow lights on the outside here. These two yellow lights should come on, which indicates you have correct wiring. If for whatever reason you're not getting two yellow lights, make sure you go and check with the park, the RV park manager. There's something wrong with the outlet. Don't plug it in, please. You could fry our electrical system and cause all sorts of problems. So plug this in first. Once you have two yellow lights, you'll plug this guy in just like that, and you should be good to go with power on the inside, and I'll show you how to make sure that's all connected and good to go. All right, there also is out here an outside outlet if you need it for whatever reason. And if the RV park happens to have a cable connection, you can connect that up right here. That'll connect inside to the TV so that you can watch cable. You can see there's a shower. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. But you got a hot, cold water shower right here. It'll actually have its own little water pump, and you can actually take a nice little shower out here. All right, next let's go to this back bin. Now this back bin has a nice little thing here. You can keep it open. This bin gets used quite a bit. There's a few things inside this bin that you're gonna like, I think. Number one is this portable grill. All you gotta do is slide this thing out, and you can use it to, fire up the grill for some hot dogs or hamburgers, etc. There's also a nice 6-foot table right here that pulls out and folds out, and you can use that as well. Now, in terms of when you get to the camp, you're gonna wanna hook up your water. Water is obviously very important. Before you connect up the water and turn everything on, make sure that the water pump inside is turned off. And when you connect this up, when you connect up to the water hose, what you're gonna do, water pump off first, and then you're gonna turn these dials right here to what's called city fixtures. City fixtures means we're connected to a high pressure water hose, right, for water. So I'll turn this to 2 and 6. So the first one will go to 2, which is pointing straight up. And the second one will go to 6, which is to the right. So that's what I would do if I was using city fixtures. Once you disconnect, you want to put this thing back to normal, which is 3 on the far right and 5, which is straight up. Normal will allow you to use the tank and the water the water pump inside of the unit. When you're rolling down the road, your water will still work, etc. Okay? So really all you need to know about are city fixtures or normal. Okay, normal is where it's at right now, and city fixtures is 2 and 6. City fill would be as if you wanted to fill it from a barrel, or country fill, kind of same thing. Don't worry about sanitizing or the tank or the winterizing the lines. That's something that I would be doing. All right? You don't need to worry about these low point drains. You really shouldn't. I mean, in an extreme case, there might be a need to pull some of that out, but you should be okay not having to use those. So what you're gonna do is this side here with the filter on it is the side that you're gonna connect first up to the actual water pump. So there's gonna be a water pump at the RV park, like a regular hose spigot. Connect this up first, and then connect the other end, which is this guy right here. This is your pressure gauge. And what you're gonna wanna do is connect this to the city water connection, not to the one below it. The one below it, it shoots out and sprays the tanks where the toilets go. You don't even need to mess with that. But you're gonna open this up and then screw this on, etc., just like that. And then slowly turn on the water at the park and make sure that this reads about 40, 45. It'll automatically adjust the pressure. It should be fine. But if for whatever reason you're seeing something higher than 45, go turn down the faucet a little bit, or worst case, you can get a screwdriver and you can actually adjust the pressure right here. I don't want more than about 45, 50 max going into the actual RV. The other hose right here is for flushing the toilet, etc. So you shouldn't really have to use this at all. It should pretty much be off limits. In the back here, you can see I do have an extra sewer hose inside of here in case you need it. Also, you've got a tow hitch. For the most part, we don't want our renters to tow, but if for some reason you need to tow, just talk to me in advance. Let's get and figure out how much you're towing and where you're going, etc. See if it's going to work out. 5,000 pounds would be the absolute maximum, but it wouldn't be recommended if you're going up a lot of hills or traveling a long distance, etc. So, and you got your plug here, your 7-way plug. All right, ladder up to the top. For the most part, you don't need to go on top of this unit. You shouldn't go on top of this unit unless there's something, you know, seriously wrong and you need access to it. So please don't go up here. Don't let your kids go up here. It's kind of the roof is kind of soft. I wouldn't want someone to, you know, make a hole or punch something up there. So just stay off the roof unless it's absolutely needed for service. All right, next up we have, in this bin right here, we have a bunch of camp chairs for your use. So there's 7 camp chairs in there. There's also a reversible patio blanket, 6x9, that you can just lay out in front of the doorstep. That'll help keep a lot of the dirt and stuff out. That'll be helpful for you. We just have some basic storage here. You can see you can throw in whatever in there that you want. We have, for families that want it, I guess you can use this for storage if you want and take these out. You got to talk to me about that, but we've got a couple of games in here. We got one called Can Jam with the Frisbee. It's a lot of fun. The kids like it. Spike ball, which is another hit. There's a football in there. There's a volleyball in there. So you can use that to have some fun when you're at the RV park. And then this right here is your propane. This does not have a key lock for emergency access, but basically you got to kind of pull on it too. You don't need to get in here, but there's a propane gauge. It tells you how much propane you got left, etc. If for whatever reason you run through propane, you could fill it up and access that through here. You shouldn't have to. We went for a full week and we only used, you can see, maybe a third. So you're usually fine with propane unless you're really just dry camping all week long and using a ton of propane for heating, etc. And then lastly up here we have another bin with, this is where I keep firewood. I've got a collapsible trash can and liners right here. So let's go ahead and go into the coach itself. So what you'll do is you'll stick your key in, open this up. It opens up a little, it feels a little rough. What it's doing is it's pulling the screen door with it. And the screen door has its own little latch here that it kind of breaks away. So if you get to a campsite and it's nice outside, the best thing to do is just to connect this door right here, like so that the wind doesn't catch it. Please make sure you do that. The door should either be opened or closed or connected. And then take the screen door and you just close it just like that. Now usually I keep this button right here, I'm sorry, this button, the power step, I usually just keep this off. What that does is once the power step comes down, it stays down until I start the vehicle again. It automatically goes up when I start the vehicle. If for some reason though you want it, click that on, and then when you're asleep at night and the screen door closes, it'll pull this up. Might make it a little bit more of a distraction for someone to enter your coach, although I wouldn't really worry about it too much. So there you go, you've got that. So I keep the power step off. On the door, when you close it, hold on to this main section here and give it a nice pull, and it'll close just like that. The main power button is right here. So when you open up the coach, go ahead and click this on, and what that'll do is give all the battery power, just the basic 12-volt power, to the inside coach. And then depending on what you're doing, you'll come in and you'll turn on the generator. So let's go ahead and pretend for a moment that we're not connected to shore power. Obviously on shore, you want to make sure the generator is off. You also want to make sure that your inverter is off. You don't need the inverter running if you've got power from the shore, from the RV park. We have 2 slides. I'll show you how those work in a minute. And then we have your water pump. Again, if you're connecting to city water, you're going to want to have this water pump off. But because I'm in here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is, I'm not connected to anything. I'm going to go ahead and start the generator. So what I like to do is press and hold this for about 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can hear that start. If for some reason it doesn't start after 10 seconds, let go, let it rest for about 10 seconds, and then try again, and it should start up. So now that I have generator power, I can go ahead and open up some slides. So the first slide is this guy over here. I push up to extend, retract for retract, and you can see how that extends. Now I've got the full slide extension. Slide number 2, same thing. Make sure it's clear. And in fact, you might want to have your wife or your kids or whoever help you make sure it's clear. Say, slide coming out, push that, make sure it's good. It opens up. So I can go ahead and turn the water pump on. What the water pump does is it makes sure that the water inside the coach is moving around. So if you're connected to water outside, you don't need this. So I've got my water pump on. Now all of my sinks and faucets and whatnot should work. Again, generator start and hold for 10 seconds. When you stop it, hold down the stop button for about 10 seconds. Same thing. These are your tank meters right here. So I can check my battery. 4 lights means that I'm fully charged. I can check my freshwater tank. You can see I've only got 1 bar or 1 light. That basically means that my freshwater battery tank is pretty low. That's fine. I want it low before I run it to the next person. I don't like to have it empty because I want some water in there to keep the sills from drying out. The black tank, same thing, and the gray tank, same thing. They've all got a little bit of water in them, but not much, a little bit of stuff in them. Other than that, the only thing you need to know is if you're cruising down the road, you've got the generator off, you can turn the inverter on, and that will actually supply power to the TV, etc., basically off of the batteries. Next up, you've got your air conditioner. It's pretty hot out here actually, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the air conditioner on. Now this is important. Before you turn on the generator, make sure the AC's off. That way you don't start it with a big load. It actually does a pretty good job of not kicking the AC on until the generator's got some power. But now that the generator's been running for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and turn this to cool. And you can hear it kind of kicked on. The air conditioner just kicked on. It's going to start blowing cool air, which is great. And I can go ahead and move on my way. Interior lights right here. Got some exterior lights as well. These are all pretty self-explanatory. And then there's a speaker inside or speaker outside. One thing to note, if you have the outside speaker set on, you will not be able to hear speakers up front when you're driving down the road. My wife and I discovered this. If you're driving down the road and you can't hear music coming out of your car stereo up front where you're driving, make sure this is clipped to inside speakers. That'll allow the front and the center speakers inside the coach here to work. All right, awning, pretty simple. Press to go out. It'll fully extend and then let go, and then press to come in, make sure it comes in completely and wraps in. Flashlight here for need, of course, fire extinguisher in case you need it. You've got your television right here. This is a little switch right here that opens that up, and then you can easily view that while you're driving down the road. It's kind of hard to see, but it's got a power antenna. You push that, and then there's a high definition antenna connected into the TV. If you're on site, you can actually get some decent TV channels, high definition channels, which is kind of nice if you don't have anything to plug in. I did go ahead and wire up, for your convenience, a nice HDMI cable. This HDMI cable, right now I have it hooked up to an iPhone, which actually works really, really well. I can connect this to my iPhone, and then I can actually watch a movie, and I can broadcast out to the speakers in the car so that I can hear through the coach speakers, and I can be watching the movie on the TV. So the speakers are nice and loud. So that's your HDMI. I've got some extra things up here that you might find useful. I've got a little drill in case you've got some emergency stuff. We've also got a cordless vacuum cleaner, which is pretty handy if you need to vacuum some stuff up that gets lost outside. So we keep those things inside the coach just for your usage. All right, I'm gonna put this back up. It is okay to have this out while you're cruising down the road. Just keep an eye on it. Nice sturdy bed. I think this is 750 pounds up here. You've got some ceiling lights if you need them, some storage area. You've got, this guy will actually adjust your HD antenna if you need to. So you can adjust, if your TV is not quite picking up enough channels, you can actually adjust this and move that forward. You push it in and turn it to rotate. Extra storage on top of here. You can see we've got blankets and pillow sets that are for these two beds. These two beds are pretty easy. This one, you just lift up on this front thing, pull it out, bam, you've got a bed. Push that back in and you're good to go. These blinds are all the same. You don't pull any ropes or anything like that. They're just the base of them. You just push up and it stays, or you pull down and it stays. Make sure when you're driving down the road, if you don't need the window open, make sure all the windows are closed. It could do some damage to the blinds. So that's one of the things you want to check before you just head out. Now this bed right here is a bed as well. It's a little bit more tricky, but basically there's a lever down here. You flip that lever over, and that allows you to push this table down like so. You get both cushions out of the way, and then you can flip these cushions on top of here, and it makes a nice easy bed. When you're done, push this back up top, and then you got to push the lever back so that it locks it in place. Got the microwave. Again, the microwave only runs if you've got generator power or shore power. If you're cruising down the road, you can have the generator on, but make sure that that's on before you start doing the microwave, right? Okay. Other thing you have is a basic stovetop here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Turn this to light, and then it sparks, and then there you go. I'm not gonna run that because it's kind of hot in here. Also, we have a toaster. Again, you got to use the toaster. You've got to be either on generator power or shore power, but you can just plug that in right there. Lots of supplies. We've got some salt and pepper, some basic spices. We've got silverware for you. We've got all, steak knives and measuring cups and spoons and kind of the basic stuff that you'll need to cook and all that kind of stuff. There's some pots and pans down here, skillet. You can make brownies or cupcakes or, whatever you might need. You kind of should have what you need there. There's also a skillet in here, right here. There's a skillet and a cutting board, and then here's your trash can in case you need to put some trash in here. Ice maker. This ice maker is actually pretty cool. All you got to do is plug it in, and then you have to fill it up with water. You'll see here, you just pour in fresh water up to about this, where this section ends right here. And put that back in, turn it on, and within about 20 minutes you'll have your first set of ice, and it'll keep making ice until it fills up this bin, and then it'll yell at you. So real nice to have this. If you're on shore power, you can just keep this turned on, and then what I usually do is fill up a cup with ice, stick it in the freezer so that it's good to go the next time I want an ice cold beverage. Up here we've got some basic stuff, some plates, and we've got some plastic plates and cups and bowls that you can reuse. Or frankly, what we found is you're on vacation, it's almost easier just to have paper plates and bowls and whatnot, and cans of soda. Here's the refrigerator. This refrigerator is actually much bigger than we expected, and we thought we were gonna need a cooler. We've got a family of 7, so we thought we were gonna need a cooler and extra soda, but we put soda in these shelves and filled this thing up, and we really didn't even need the cooler. This thing holds actually a lot more than I thought, so it was actually kind of nice. Now, what you're gonna wanna do is, when you're cruising down, you're gonna wanna have this thing on auto almost all the time. What auto means is the refrigerator is gonna automatically detect whether there's electricity running to the unit or if it needs to use propane. In this case, the generator's on, so it's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna use the electricity, and that's how it's gonna keep itself cool. We keep this on 4 or 5 for the coldest, and then, of course, when you're parked, this will stay nice and cold. There's a nice big freezer as well. This is kind of some small storage here, but you can see it's not very deep, but you can put some things in here. There's some card games for you if you wanna drive yourself crazy with the kids. And then here's some cups. Honestly, these probably work out just as well as anything else. You can stack a whole bunch of them in here, then you can just toss them when you're done. Also, we found that just using cans a lot was fine. 2 bunk beds, they each have their own light. They each have their own privacy screen, their own little windshield if you want to use this or not. You know, again, push up, push down. Just have the kids be real careful. These will hold up to, I think, 300 pounds a piece, so adults can use these. I'm 6'2", and I fit okay in one of these. It's a tad short for me, but it would work. If I had to sleep there, it wouldn't be a problem. And then, of course, here in the back, we have what's called a short queen or an RV queen. And got a couple pillows here, everything that you might need. Lights. These all have their own little lights as well, which is kind of nice. They each have their own outlet, so you can charge your phone at night. You can see there, my wife and I, we like to charge our iPhones while we're sleeping. Which makes it great if you're parked at an RV park or whatever. You can keep those charged up and ready to go. Over here, you've got tons of drawers and space to store whatever you might need. So you can see here, we've got, and I'll leave these in here as well. These are laundry bins. These are great. I'll let you figure out which ones go for the dark and which ones go for the white, but it should be obvious. So we left this in. We bought these. They're great. Just throw your clothes in there. Velvet coat hangers so your stuff doesn't fall off while you're cruising down the road. Make sure all your cabinets are secured before you do take off. And then over here on above the master bed, you can see we've got 8 bath towels. We also have an ironing board and iron. And then we have 8 of these swimming towels. So you don't even need to bring towels really, as long as you're okay using 1 bath towel for the week. If you're clean with it, it shouldn't be a problem. But that's what we usually do. It's kind of hard to, you don't want to bring 30 towels on a trip anyway. All right, bathroom. There's me, and what you can see here, plenty of stuff in the medicine cabinet. We've actually left some stuff for if you want it. There's everything that you might need: shampoo, conditioner, hand towels. The sink works as you would expect, hot and cold water. Again, now this fan up above me here is great, but what you have to do, and this is really important, is you have to open it up, turn this clockwise here, it opens it up, and you can even feel the air coming in, and then you have to turn on the switch, and then you turn on this switch over here. Mom or Dad, I prefer that you remember this, but one of your checklists before you leave should be, are all of these vents closed? There's also one in the back above the master bedroom. What I usually do is before I close it, I go ahead and turn this switch off. That way, in case the kids leave the fan on, it won't run and just try to circulate. Pretty spacious shower here. It's actually not too bad. Again, I'm 6'2", and it works. It's not bad. I get a nice clean shower out of there. If you're dry camping, remember this rig only has, I think, 35 gallons of water. So you're gonna have to use that water sparingly. If you're at an RV park, it's not a problem. You just gotta watch that you don't fill up the gray tanks down below. Again, you can check the tanks and then you'll know whether or not you're full. If you see some water start to puddle up for some reason, check your gray water tank. It's usually the one that fills up the fastest. And then I already showed you how to go drain that, right? Sewer hose connected, pull the gray lever, and your gray water tank should empty just fine. Keep this stuff closed. Also, no showers while you're moving, please. It's just too dangerous. You could fly out and hit this. I mean, it's not wise. We do have these, what are called TST drop-ins. So what you're gonna wanna do is after you empty your black water tank, this is after you've been in it, you know, again, you probably don't wanna empty your black water tank until it's probably at least halfway full, but after you've dumped it, open up the toilet, throw in one of these, and then put about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of water into the tank. So hold the flush down for probably a good, you know, I don't know, a good 20 seconds even to get some water down in there, so it'll help this kind of move out. Don't do this before you flush the tank. Do this after you flush the tank. Drop one of these in. What that'll do is it'll just help keep the black tank, which is the stinky tank, it'll keep it from smelling too bad, and it'll be good. It's actually pretty good. This thing seals up pretty well. Obviously, when you've got a family of 7 like me and 1 bathroom, you know, bathroom time needs to be scheduled, and you need to be careful about, you know, how much you stink up the place. So that goes for us dads mostly. We actually do have something when you go to the bathroom. My wife loves this. It actually works pretty well. It's called poopery. All you do is open up the toilet, spray this 3 times in there, and then do your business. And this actually really does a good job of keeping the stench down. It's kind of high potent poopery. So now when you're cruising down the road, if it's really hot outside, you may have to turn on the generator while you're driving. That's okay. You can turn on the generator. That's how you run the air conditioner. What you'll notice, however, though, is that running the air conditioner, it will burn extra gas up to about half a gallon to a gallon an hour. So it's not too bad, but it will add up to your fuel bill. So it pulls directly from the tank, from the actual tank of the motorhome. Once your tank is at a quarter level, your gas tank on the coach itself, in the truck, the generator will automatically shut off. Again, generator will stop working when you're at a quarter tank of gas in the truck. That's so you don't run out of gas. So what you got to do is, if you're going dry camping, make sure your tank's pretty full before you go pull over and dry camp, because you'll probably use quite a bit of gas. In fact, this thing holds 55 gallons of gas, which is quite a bit. So if you can top off before you go any dry camping or boondocking, that'll be helpful. All right, I'm going to turn off the generator now. Let me show you the procedure. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the air conditioner, because I don't want the poor generator to be on a huge load when I turn it off. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and turn off my water pump, which normally I could leave that on actually if I was cruising down the road. But I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the stop button for about 10 seconds. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you can hear it shut off in the back there, and you should be good to go. So again, if I'm cruising down the road, probably what I'm going to want to do, turn on my water pump, maybe even turn on my inverter. You got to hold that down, you'll hear it beep and you'll see a red light. That'll allow the TV to run, and the water will circulate so you can use the faucet and sink and the toilet, etc. All right, not the shower though, right? No showers while we're driving down the road. Before you take off driving, there's a few things you're going to want to do. Number one, let's make sure these slides are in. In fact, I forgot to do it. You can see how easy it is to forget. So I'm going to hit the retract button. It's okay to do this with regular power from the inverter. You don't have to have the generator on it. It might be a little bit helpful. You see, I hold that on until it kind of comes to a stop and it'll lock. Let's do the back one now. You'll see. Pulling in that back one. Pulling in slowly. Wait for it, listen for it. There you go. So I've got both my slides in, my inverter's off, and my water pump's off. The last thing that I'm going to do before I take off is, before I leave the coach, is I'm going to go ahead and just trip the main power. The main power is this guy right here. Just going to hit that, push it up, and then you'll see it kind of tricks you. You think it's not off, but you can see it's starting to slowly go out. That means that it actually is. I did actually turn off the main power, so it's slowly going away. It's very, very slow. It really is confusing. It makes you, I swear, so many times it makes me feel like it's still on, but it's off. See how it's finally out now. All right. Now, I do not have an automatic leveling system on this rig. So with that, that was the 42-minute tour, it looks like. Man, that took a little while. I might have to trim this video up. I apologize for such a long video. But I kind of wanted to give you the ins and outs of this motorhome. So if you end up using our coach, and I hope you have a good time, I hope you take care of it. It is our family vacation mobile, so we appreciate it if you take care of it and have fun just like we do. Thanks.